Hello everyone, I'm Ethiopian refugee from Africa Refugee Right, United Justice Peace Initiative, African Refugees Right, and message from the African Refugee Right Initiative on Friday, 22 July 2022 in Cairo, Egypt. To the international community, to the African Union, at the UN United Nations, at the UNHCR office in Geneva, at the UNHCR office in Egypt, to the League of Arab States, to the European Union, in the United States of America, to the Great Russian Federation, to Pope Francis, to the Grand Imam Sheikh of Al-Azhar, to all human rights organizations, to all African nations, to all migrants and refugees, to the citizens of the world, dear ladies and gentlemen. Our initiative has the honor to send you this important message, coming from the grievance of our African refugee brother and sister living in Egypt. Forced into mode of modern slavery, very cunning and worse than the treatment of Pharaoh in ancient Egypt inflicted on their slave at the time. How did we come to this purpose? The unique and only claim of our initiative is the transfer of all African refugees to another host country. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the management team of our initiative wish to inform African public opinion to the African Union Commission, the international community, human rights organization, and all beings of goodwill whose justice and dialogue remain their weapon of peace. Something happened at the UNHCR office in Egypt, and there. It is so much for our initiative to reveal this to the whole world. African refugees in Egypt have experienced a humiliating stay in their host country as they registered with the UNHCR office in Egypt for international protection guaranteed by 1951 Geneva Convention ruling on the refugees. It is because of this humiliation imposed on African refugees by the UNHCR office in Egypt that our initiative for the right of African refugees was born on October 2020 in Cairo, Egypt, under the basis of petitions from African refugees. The UNHCR office in Egypt is unable to properly use the 1951 Geneva Convention and the Memorandum of Understanding between UNHCR and the Egyptian government to provide minimum protection to the refugees. Our initiative has done all that is necessary and legal as an approach to be taken with the UNHCR office in Egypt and its partner in order to find an amicable solution. But nothing has been found as solution to the degrading situation of the living of refugees in Egypt. Our initiative to contact all the major institutions of the world, including the head office of UNHCR organization in Geneva and New York. But until today, the UNHCR of Egypt refuses to work the humanitarian service in question. The official request by email from the Central UNHCR in Geneva in 2021 asking the UNHCR in Egypt to find the solution to the request of African refugees formulated by our initiative entitled General Report on the Situation of African Refugees in Egypt 2020 remained unanswered nor consideration. We ask ourselves the question, who controls them? Who controls whom exactly? UNHCR Egypt and its Egyptian partner refused to issue travel documents to refugees. Each refers the responsibility to the camp of the other. This is what we have observed. While there are refugees who live more than 20 to 30 years in Egypt without, however, having the nationality nor the right to travel. Is this doing your humanitarian work? Is this respecting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights under its Article 13 granting to the right to travel to every human being? We recall here that all member countries of the United Nations signed this Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Paris in 1948. Without any social assistance, education, housing, or appropriate care, the average refugee is forced to work without any legal contract that can defend this interest in the event of disagreement with his employer. It is therefore at this level that exploitation of the refugee is imposed because he is defenseless. Neither his institution guaranteeing his protection, which is Egypt's UNHCR, will come to defend him. He is at the mercy of God, his creator. Speaking of sexual assault and rape of refugees, several cases are not treated by the UNHCR office in Egypt nor considered by their partner organization, such as Doctors Without Borders, which in turn refused to issue the medical certificate attesting to the act of rape among refugees, girls or boys. The UNHCR office in Egypt functions as a political settlement office that provides information, maltreats refugees who demand the processing of their case in accordance with the 1951 Geneva Convention. Our representative was able to contact the UNHCR office in Geneva for the second to find a solution to the situation. The Geneva UNHCR replied that the UNHCR office in Egypt will take care of case, but this has not been done despite our multiple messages sent to the Protection Department of the UNHCR office in Egypt. In Egypt, we see several violations of the rights of African refugees. The UNHCR office in Egypt is embarking on political exercise in destabilization of refugees and not in its humanitarian service, as required by its mission in 1951 Geneva Convention concerned refugees. African refugees in Egypt are prohibited from leaving the country, while Article 28 of the Geneva Convention gives them the right to leave the country where they are and to return there without problem. By prohibiting refugees from leaving Egypt, this is a great violation of said article, and even worse of a violation of Article 13 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Secondarily, it is unacceptable that African refugees are forced to work, but it happened in Cairo, Egypt. The Egypt UNHCR was indeed informed of this situation, but nothing was done to do justice. In the case of refugees who disappeared and died in obscure circumstances, let's not talk about it. The UNHCR in Egypt is speechless. We recall that this case of forced labor of African refugees in Egypt was officially published in an official report article on the website of Human Rights Organization or Human Rights Watch in March 2020. African refugees in Egypt asked to be transferred to another UNHCR office in another host country. In Egypt, refugees are considered by the UNHCR office as good to be stored and to make money from donors in rich countries, exploiting them to the maximum for the benefit of business, household, and factories, and so on. It is for this purpose that they do not have the right to obtain the travel document, whereas in principle this should be issued by the Egyptian government in collaboration with the UNHCR Egypt under Article 07 of the Protocol of Agreement between the two institutions. Unfortunately, it is not the case. Noting all this, the team of our initiative with African refugees from Egypt anonymously asked the UNHCR office in Geneva, the African Union, all human rights organizations, and the international community to help process the transfer of African refugees from Egypt to other host countries. In order to avoid the perpetuation of this tragedy, because the UNHCR office in Egypt is not doing its job, and it's not operational in accordance with the Geneva Convention of 1951 on the protection of refugees. Instead, this office works on social and political propaganda and of its own and has nothing to do with humanitarianism. It is slave and racist office. This UNHCR office in Egypt does not offer any future or guarantee for a better future for the refugees. And it is with this in mind that we refuse to remain under the control of this office. Dear ladies and gentlemen, in the hope of receiving a favorable response to our transfer request, receive our most distinguished greeting. We end our message with this quote: "Saving one life is saving all humanity." Thank you. By Team African Refugee Rights Initiative, Mr. Alfred Camus de Jasnan, President of the African Refugee Rights Initiative. Thank you.